Oh, Amanda, I like that Global Scholar one you had. Go back to it. I need that one. The background you had that said Global Scholars on it.
The brown one?
Yeah.
Does it say Global Scholars?
It doesn't say it, but that's actually the Global Scholars icon. All right. I didn't send out a reminder to everyone today because I had quite a stressful day, but.
Would you like to say why?
It's still a stressful day because I have a snake in my kitchen and we still haven't found it.
Oh no. So
this is why I'm not coming to you from my home office, from my dining room, because the snake is somewhere in my office. So it's been a little stressful. And I was just working on I was trying to make sure I had a feedback form ready for everybody in the folder. Deborah, do you and Amanda have access to the folder?
Yeah, I'm good. I found it.
You found it? Let me know if I'm missing somebody's feedback form. We'll try to get ourselves together. So I think now they're going to be 6 people. So Jessica and Thomas and Lexi and 3 others should be joining us. Kat has been texting me all day about the snake. She says I should go to a hotel. I did my mother's, but we think it's like trapped in that room. But
did y'all call somebody to come catch it?
We did, but they couldn't find it.
Wow.
Think on the dark side. Maybe it just got out the same way it got in.
Well, so it was actually under my kitchen table when I didn't know what it was, but I saw my cat there. My cat's tail was hugely puffed up and I could tell that he was like stalking something. And then I saw him chase whatever it was in the bedroom downstairs, which is my home office. And I still didn't see what it was, but I called my husband. I saw that my cat was had it trapped under the dresser and was still stalking it. So I called my husband down and he was supposed to watch it. That's when we figured out it was a snake and he was supposed to keep his eye on it till help arrived, but somehow it got away while we were waiting for help to arrive. So yeah, so they took everything out of the room, but we still didn't find the snake. Oh. It's a little one. Is that good? It's only about 2 feet long. Okay, let's see. So I see Melody has joined us and Sebastian. Okay, and here comes Abigail. So I think that's all of our presenters. And John Rosenberger, you're going to help do feedback for us too? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Do you know where the folder is with the feedback forms? And Christina too? Do you have that link?
I will look.
I'll look as well.
I could put it in the chat. I've just been so discombobulated all day. I just have done virtually nothing because I'm terrified of snakes. So no, that's not the right folder. It's on the team drive. And then under international ed and then subcommittees, you have to go way, way, way. Then Scholars of Global Distinction, feedback, spring 2021, May 3rd. Okay, so thank you guys for being here. And as I mentioned, I did not send out a campus-wide email today because I was too distracted by the snake in my house. But that means there's very little pressure, right? It's just us. And there's like 4 of us, 5 of us, Deborah's there too, that will be giving you feedback on your presentation. And then like tomorrow, I'll share the files with you so you can see all the great things you did and what we liked that you talked about. And then also if we thought there were any areas of improvement or things you could have done a little bit better. Even though we're just 6 instead of 8, I would still ask you to watch your time. Sometimes students can go on for 20, 25, 30 minutes. And if we do that, we'll be here for 3 hours. So try to keep it in the 10-minute range. Make it short and sweet. We haven't like talked about an order of who wants to go first or last. Do we have any volunteers who just want to jump in and go first?
I will.
Thank you, Lexi. Let's make sure, hold on, while you're pulling that up, let's make sure, is there a feedback sheet for Lexi in the folder? Yes, okay.
That was Jessica. I said I would. Lexi,
I'm sorry. I was looking at Lexi. I don't know. Okay, Jessica.
Maybe she said it at the same time, but when I saw her like that, I was like, no.
Oh, okay. Let me see if there's a feedback sheet for Jessica. There should be, yes. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you, Jessica. Sorry, Lexi. I don't know why I thought it was you who said that. So Jessica, are you gonna go ahead and go?
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Let's see. So we'll start from the beginning. See if I can hide this because. Okay. So I'm gonna try and get through this in 10 minutes. I got a lot of information from the experience that I did. And I was really excited. So I put as much in there and we'll go through as quick as possible. But this is my presentation. I'm Jessica Halliburton. And so the experience that I did was the global perspectives through the narratives of Ireland. And so essentially I just did a virtual journey through Ireland, and that was led by a team from the Institute of the Study Abroad, and that was led by Dr. Neve Hamill. And so you can look at the way her name's spelled, like a lot of their spellings and the way it's pronounced is different. So that's pronounced Neve. And I chose this experience because I absolutely had no knowledge about this part of the world. But whenever I was presented with it and I looked at it, it was just such a beautiful place. So I thought, yeah, I'll definitely like to learn more about Ireland and their culture and how it differs from my culture and what I'm familiar with. So one of the challenges that I was faced with was there was a bunch of different speakers, and some of them had some really strong dialects that was hard to understand. So I would have to go through, it was recorded, so I could go back and listen to it a couple times until I understood exactly what they said. But this experience was much more than I thought it would be. It was very informative. And so I learned a whole lot about Ireland's history and their culture. So welcome to Ireland. So Ireland is a small island, and it's on the westernmost edge of Europe. And from North Carolina, it's 3,551 miles across the North Atlantic Ocean. When Dr. Neve was describing how small Ireland is, she said that if you were to drive across Ireland from north to south, it would take about, or drive from top to bottom, north to south, it would take about 6 hours and only 4 hours from east to west. So it's really small compared to what we're used to. So the map on the right, this one is just a detailed map that shows some of the counties, towns, and the 4 provinces that it's broken up into. And then I decided to put the map over on the left because this is primarily what I'm going to be talking about. Ireland is separated to Northern and Southern Ireland. And I'm not going to get into that right now because that's what I'm going to be talking about, but I just wanted you to see that and know that it was separated into 2 different parts. Okay, so what I learned a whole lot academically. So I hope I can share some of that with you guys. But personally, this made me realize that I don't know as much about my own culture as I should. And, you know, I'd like to research that more, seeing how passionate the Irish were about their culture, their history. They're very proud of it. They're huge in like folklore, storytelling. They love their history. So they tell lots of stories. There's songs that they sing about their history. So, you know, they love their history. So it piqued my interest. And so it made me feel like I need to learn a little bit more about my own culture. So these 2 pictures that I chose first were some places that she spoke about at the beginning of the presentation. And the top one, this is Court Cairns. This is another one of those where it looks different than it's pronounced, but this is Court Cairns. These are also known as passage tombs or court tombs, and they're scattered all over Ireland's landscape. There are almost 400 or maybe a little bit more than 400 of these all over Ireland. And most of them are actually in the northern regions of Ireland. But these are sacred spaces that were created thousands of years ago. Archaeology proves that, or suggests that these were places where rituals and ceremonies took place. And those would be like village meetings or weddings. But they're still very important to Irish today because they're sources of inspiration for their storytellers and the folklore, which again is a huge part of their culture. And the bottom one is the Hill of Tara. And this is a special place. It's very symbolic to the Irish history. The entrance space there where the little gate is, that's called the Mound of Hostages. And this is a passage grave. There's evidence of ceremonies and rituals that took place in ancient times there. There were over 300 bodies that were found inside of this during excavation. So it was evident that it was very important in ancient Ireland for a ceremonial space to their forefathers and foremothers. And even today, this place is like a focal point of Ireland, and they see it as a center point of power. Throughout time, they had lots of different meetings here. So this is a very, very sacred place to them. All right, so here's a couple more pictures of places that they talked about. And for time's sake, I'm not gonna get as into depth about these, but the one on the left, this is Knocknarea Mountain. The Knocknarea Mountain is in the background, but I just wanted to point out, like even in front of that one, you can see some of the Court Cairns in front of that. And then on the right-hand side, this is Blarney Castle. I chose this because there are about 30,000 castles in the country. And so these are a huge part of the Irish history as well. But the Normans are actually the ones who began building those in the 12th century. And they did become popular and even essential for the people of Ireland because they served as protection to the ones who were challenging the colonization of Ireland and opposing the British crown. And so I did also want to point out that most of these things you can see in Ireland are made of stone. That was one of their huge resources. So stone lasts over time. So that's why a lot of these ancient landmarks are still around in Ireland because it preserves over time. All right, so here is the map again. This is the partition of Ireland. So you see again, it's broken up into the north and the south. And this happened on May 3rd, 1921, when it was actually divided and separated, the official division, and it was separated into the north and the south. And so this happened. There were several events that led up to this. One that she spoke about in particular was the Easter Rising. And that happened in 1919. And so the Eastern Rising, it was also known as the Easter Rebellion, and it lasted 6 days during the Easter week. But it was an armed insurrection in Ireland where the Irish Republicans went against the British rule to establish their independence. And so you can see from these pictures that there was a lot of casualties. The battle was very brutal, and there was a lot of destruction that took place in their towns. But ultimately, the British Army brought in thousands of reinforcements and eventually suppressed the rising. So even though they did not win, this event did contribute to an increase in popular support for the Irish independence, especially because the aftermath after this battle, there were tons of arrests of the leaders who led the uprising, and over a 10-day period, there were executions publicly, I guess to set an example. So that happened, and that didn't like quiet things down really. There were still like groups forming, and you know, they were wanting to come up against the British still. So in 1919, there was a War of Independence that lasted from 1919 to 1921. And this actually resulted in the independence of part of Ireland. So this is what led to the partition, where they agreed to separate the North and the South. The Irish was the Free State, that was the lower portion, and they are the Republic of Ireland, and Northern Ireland is still part of the United Kingdom. And so the leader of the Irish Parliamentary Party, his name was John Redmond, and he's the one who partitioned Ireland, and that was essentially just to pacify the Unionists, to stop the battles and avoid a civil war. And so these events did not create total peace. The political conflict has continued. There were finally some agreements made that brought on some peace, but that took many, many years. But that was called the Good Friday Agreement, and I don't have a whole lot of time to talk about that, but that was signed on April 10th, 1998. But hopefully it's piqued your interest and you'll want to look that up. But I did want to put some pictures up of Ireland, because a lot of what I talked about was a lot of their history, and so it was brutal, and it did look, you know, like not the most beautiful place. But here's some current pictures of Ireland and some of their landmarks, and it's just really, really beautiful. And so hopefully you guys will want to look it up and learn a little bit more about it like me. And that's it.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Does anybody have questions for Jessica? I think one of the things you didn't address was how did this experience help you professionally? What are you thinking about doing in the future, and how do you think this experience has been a benefit to you?
Okay, I'm trying to stop sharing and reshare my video. Okay, so professionally, I am going to school for human services. So I'm going for a concentration in substance abuse. So I'm going to be working with people. And so I think this opportunity was just for me to see other cultures, see how people are different, so I can relate to other people, have compassion on other people, and know, like, you know, we all come from somewhere. Like, we all have a history, we all have a past, but ultimately, you know, it took a lot of struggles for everybody to get to where they are. So, and part of helping people, you know, is just understanding that and being compassionate. So, I think that'll just help me a lot professionally.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have a question for Jessica?
What was the name of the rising group against the British?
It was the Easter Rising.
So yeah, that was like the first, well, it was the first, but it was like the major rebellion in 1916. And it wasn't the rebellion was a huge failure, but
yeah,
executed the leaders that caused a lot of the Irish people to have sympathy for the freedom fighters. And so that was really England's mistake, if you want to say, was to execute the leaders, because then the crowd turned on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it led to a long civil war. And
it did, because it's, you know, all of that transpired over a long period of time. You know, that was 1960 or 1916, and then the Good Friday Agreement didn't happen until 1998. So, like, that's a huge window of, you know, just conflict.
All right. Okay, Amanda wants to know, did you learn about the culture of Ireland and how it relates to the US?
The main thing that I noticed from Ireland, like a lot of the presentation or the experience that I did talk about like the history. But once we got to the small segment of like, you know, how Ireland is today, like they're big into sports. You know, I think our culture, we're big into sports too. But I think the Irish, like, they're more connected than we are here. So, you know, they're more open to talk to people and communicate, rather than here, you know, I think we're still more divided and separated. So I didn't learn a whole lot about like their current culture. I just learned a lot about like their history, but it did intrigue me to like want to look up like how their culture differed from ours. And that's something that I found that was a big difference.
Okay, thank you. All righty, who wants to go next? Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
I can go now.
Is that Lexi talking?
It is me this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is my capstone presentation. My name is Lexi Nifong. Okay, so the thing that I did was I did the Global Solutions and Sustainability Challenge. So this challenge, we worked with some students in Kurdistan. The goal was to identify a problem that affected both countries and to create a design or a product that helped to solve this problem. So for us, our problem was that we were dealing with the food waste that is going on all across the globe. And so our product, which you see on the right, that little thing, was an app that connected farmers to local restaurants so that some of the food wouldn't go to waste. It could either be used as food for livestock or to be composted and used to help grow other food. So you can see down in the bottom corner, you can see our screenshot. We would always do, we had meetings once a week with them, which was kind of weird because they are at such a big time difference. So for us, it was 12 or 11 a.m. because we had the time jump, and for them it was 7 p.m. And so it was really odd, but I think this will definitely help with my future career because I'm going to be an engineer. And so as someone who's going to be an engineer, I'm going to have to learn to work with people who are from different areas and have different backgrounds and ways of life. And so being able to work with them, I got a little taste of what it's going to be like to have to communicate with people who I'm not exactly familiar with how they live. So some of the pros are that it pushed me in ways that I've never been pushed. So like I've never really had to communicate with people who are that far away, maybe a couple of states at most, but not whole countries. And it also gave me a lot of experiences with working on an online platform and trying to identify problems and actually create solutions that might actually help someone rather than just doing schoolwork that's kind of all theory. I actually got to work with actually designing something. So some of the cons that I struggled with was there was a lack of communication. I think this was mostly due to the fact that the app would sometimes malfunction. So like somebody would text me and I wouldn't get the message for days and stuff like that. So I might text someone and then by the time they respond to me, the question is outdated. So to kind of combat this, I would message multiple people so that maybe one of them would get the message on time and I would be able to get the answer that I needed. Another thing that I struggled with was the lack of communication. So I mean, responsibilities, my bad, the lack of responsibilities. So over there, I think it's probably just because they were close together and they could meet up all the time and work. Oh, sorry, my mailbox is opening. And so they could work with people. Sorry, I don't know what's happening. There we go. So they could work with the people that were in their country pretty easily. And since I was in another country, even though I was the prototype developer here, I think they just kind of left me out of the loop because it would be easier to work with them where they were instead of having to try and include someone that was pretty far away. But that was still okay. I still got to work. Whenever we had the group meetings, we would all contribute. So it definitely differed in the amount of designing that we were doing. So I thought that it was going to be a lot more about the designing the product, but in the end, it was a lot more about brainstorming the idea and brainstorming how we were going to do it. So first we had to pick a problem, and that was hard enough as it is because there's so many problems. And then we had to pick what we were going to do to solve it and then how we were going to make that happen. So it was a lot less of the actual building of the prototype than I thought it was going to be. So what did I learn? From the challenge, something that I learned is we take a lot of things for granted. For example, one of the problems they wanted to do was to create an app that times buses. And of course, we have that here. We have apps that tell you when buses are going to get there and where their next stop is going to be, but over there they don't. And just taking stuff like that for granted and not understanding the problems, you know, like for us, if somebody said, oh my gosh, I was late for work, I missed my bus, we'd be like, oh, well, you should have checked the app or you should have been able to get there faster. You know, that's not something that is somebody else's fault. Whereas over there, they don't know when the buses are going to get there. They don't follow a schedule. And so they might be waiting for an hour for their bus. So like they might complain about that and we think, oh, that's your fault. But really it's not. It's because they don't have a good system. So not really understanding problems is something that I learned. And also communication and flexibility. Like I discussed before, having to communicate with the time difference and stuff, we really had to be flexible to be able to, if I had the meeting with somebody else, we would have to find a good time for both of us because they would be in classes when I would be like sleeping and they would have free time when it was 6 a.m. in the morning over here. And so it was just kind of really working together. Something I learned from global courses is not to judge people. So an example of this is one time in sociology, we learned about a woman who was in, I think, New York, and she left her baby outside when she went into a restaurant. And now when you first hear that, you go, oh my gosh, why would she leave her baby outside? It's cold, they can get kidnapped. But where they were from, they did it so that the babies could build up an immunity to the cold and not get sick from it whenever they did go outside. And also so that there weren't like strollers crowding up the restaurants. So I learned definitely how to not judge and be so harsh with people because where they're from, it's totally normal. I also learned how to be compassionate and empathetic and how to respect other cultures and not just say I'm respecting them, even though I'm just kind of letting them be and maybe even trying to change them. Passport events also definitely taught me a lot. The main thing that I learned from passport events was how to properly ask questions and when it is appropriate. Which seems a little silly, but a lot of the time people would be in passport events and they would ask like the most inappropriate questions for the time Like, it might not be appropriate to ask a country that just had a terrorist attack about how they feel about terrorism laws. That's not an appropriate thing to do. So I definitely learned a lot about that. And I also learned how to listen and learn from others. But the biggest thing I learned from all of this is how to be open-minded and willing to learn. So it definitely changed me a lot. I was really judgmental. I would hear people without listening to them. I would not be willing to change my ways. But now I'm willing to actually listen and maybe even incorporate what these people are telling me into my life and not just stay stuck in what I'm doing now. I also now understand how vast the differences in the world is, even in just America. The problems that I face might not be problems somebody else face. And the things that I do might be problems in other areas because they don't have the solutions that I have. So now I really just have been able to understand how big the world is and how the problems that plague us and plague others might not be all the same. So to be a global citizen, to me, this means being open and respecting other cultures, even when they differ from your own. I do not believe it means having to go out and try every food from every culture or even integrating parts of cultures into your own. It just means being willing to look at other cultures as a way to learn and improve yourself. Even if you don't end up taking anything away and keeping it in your personal life, being willing to be open-minded and try to do that is what it takes to be a global citizen. So 2 of the soft traits that I learned is curiosity and courage. So I am so much more curious now thanks to Global Scholars. I love learning about other cultures and their way of life. And I'm a lot more willing to try things from other cultures and experiences. Like maybe I would love to go to like church services in other countries because I think that would just be so cool to maybe go to like a Buddhist church service and to experience what they're doing every day and every week in their life, because I think that would just be so amazing. So in conclusion, because of Global Scholars, I have become so much of a better person. This is going to help me in my future career, being able to work with others and other cultures, and just being able to incorporate what other people do in other cultures into my own life to become a better person, be it make my life better or make somebody else's life better by becoming more self-aware and easier to work with and just a better all-around global person. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lexi. Questions for Lexi? Did you learn something specific about Kurdistan that was interesting to you that you'd like to mention briefly?
We did learn that I think was kind of cool was that the main way that they learn English is to like read English books and like watch English TV shows, which I think is really fun. Like they have English classes, but that's not how they learn because those are so formal. They're like, yeah, we love to read like English novels and to watch like English sitcoms and stuff because it teaches them actual like modern English and not. So I thought that was really neat.
Okay, cool.
Do you think this is a place of the world you'd like to visit when, I don't know, if you're given the opportunity?
I might. They looked like one of the things one day, one of the prompts was we all sent our favorite foods and they sent some really good looking foods. Like there was a lot of like dishes that they looked really tasty. So they told us to just give a call when we're there and they'll serve us up some, so.
All right, thank you, Lexi. Okay, who wants to go next?
I can go next, Suzanne.
Okay, thank you, Melody.
If I can figure out how to share this.
No worries, I've been doing it for 1.5 years and I still can't get it right half the time.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, so my name is Melody Chamberlain and I also participated in the Global Solutions Sustainability Challenge. The program is set up as a virtual exchange between community colleges in the US and universities in Iraq and Jordan. And the goal of the challenge is to solve a global business problem and to develop students in many different ways. So our team at Davidson-Davie connected with a team at Salahan University in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. And the prompt for this year's challenge was to create a sustainable solution in relation to technology. And this is something that could affect just our two countries. It could be a global effect, either or. Over the course of 6 weeks, our binational team held meetings to analyze and discuss possible solutions, as well as connecting over each other's cultures and traditions. And our solution was a mobile application named Rest Farmer. And the goal was to reduce food waste by connecting farmers to local restaurants, hotels, markets with surplus of food, providing farmers with an economical solution to either feed their livestock or compost the food to use on their farms. And even though our team did not win the challenge, I can say that it definitely changed my perspective on multiple things. My primary reason for participating in this experience was for the interaction and partnership with Iraq and Jordan, as there are very few opportunities to be able to interact with people in these Middle Eastern countries, especially in this capacity. Personally, I love to learn about different countries, languages, cultures. I love to travel, and this provided me with an amazing opportunity to learn about a part of the world that is hard to find good information about. You always hear the negative about the Middle East. And this provided a really good opportunity to hear their foods, what they do every day, their environment that they live in, and really the good stuff. The most challenging part of the program for me was time management. As Lexi said, big time difference between countries, and I work a full-time job while also going to school. So when I was working 8 to 5 during the day is when the Kurdistan team would be free and want to be working on the project. And it was just really difficult to manage everything. But I learned how to be flexible, and luckily my boss was also very flexible with me for the length of the challenge and allowed me to meet with my Kurdistan partners throughout the day as necessary. Throughout this semester, I learned that, one, my upbringing was different compared to others I've met, but it's also shaped me into the person that I am and the person that I want to become. Because of my experience in my global courses, in the passport events, I was able to pick up on the fact that in the Black Panther movie, they are speaking the Xhosa language. And I recognize this because in one of our South African passport events, they were teaching us greetings in Xhosa. And one of the words they taught us was Nkosi, which means thank you. And I was watching this movie with my husband, and I heard the word and picked up on it. And it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, that's what they're speaking. And that's something that I never would have realized without this event. And on the same topic, with the Kurdish team, they taught me how to say hello in Kurdish, which is pronounced slough. Even though it looks like slaw, they pronounce it slough. And on an academic level, this experience really reinforced the fact that I want to double major in international business and human resources when I transfer to UNCG next year. I really begun to thrive on the interaction with people from around the world, learning about their cultures, and it's definitely something that I want to do for the rest of my life. A few other things that our Kurdish teammates taught us about was Newroz, which is their celebration of spring. They dress up in their traditional clothes. They have picnics, very beautiful, colorful celebrations. And another event they taught us about was the Anfal genocide, which was a major conflict that resulted in the deaths of between 80,000 and 150,000 Kurdish people. And they have a National Day of Remembrance for that event as well, which actually both of these occurred during our challenge. And so that's one reason they brought it up and really spoke to us about that. Here I've shared some pictures of meetings that we had with some of our teammates and some fun facts. Up at the top here, it's me and Muhammad. As Lexi said, they love to read English books and watch American TV shows and movies. And so Muhammad's favorite author was Stephen King. Shema, she loved reading a lot of the same books that I did. She loved romantic stories, Nicholas Sparks books, so those types of things. And Konaf, here on the right, she loved school, was involved in every school program that they would allow her to be involved in, but she didn't like going out. This experience has affected me in so many different ways. Some of the most prominent being my soft skills, my empathy, my perspective, and as I mentioned, my flexibility. And that one is the most difficult because I'm the kind of person who I like to have a set plan and I like to maintain control. And this has helped increase my patience and my respect for different people and cultures. And along with educating me about the Kurdish culture and global food waste and so many other topics that I might not have ever even thought about learning. The single most important thing I learned is to be self-aware of what I'm saying, doing, how I'm reacting. That you must always think before you speak, be respectful and patient, and communicate as clearly as possible, even more so when you're interacting with someone of a different culture because of the cultural divide. And people understand things differently, and you just need to be very clear in your intentions. I definitely learned that there will always be at least one way that you can relate to or connect with anyone you meet. If you just start talking to somebody, you will learn whether you like the same book or you like the same movie or you like photography or you like an animal. There's always going to be something that you can connect with someone. And in general, to me, being a global citizen means being self-aware, respectful, and educated. And while I don't feel like I've fully reached these standards personally, I do feel like I'm on the right path to accomplish that. And I do feel like I have a lot to thank the Global Scholars Program for. I do feel like this program has broadened my horizons, as cliche as that sounds, and it's solidified the idea of what I want to do in my academic and professional life, and I think it's just made me a better person overall. Thanks.
Thank you, Melody. Great job. Also, I know in spite of like your work schedule, LaKoya told me you really took the lead on the US team and really kept it together and got everything on our side cohesive. So that's impressive on top of a full-time job. So we appreciate that. Questions for Melody? Okay.
I have a quick question, Melody. So do you think you would ever talk to these people outside of this project?
These people being the Kurdistan people, or
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I exchanged contact information with quite a few of them. We've added each other on LinkedIn, email addresses. I have promises to exchange some food recipes with some of them because some of my favorite food they really wanted to try and vice versa. And again, I found something in common with almost every single person that I interacted with. And they all were very kind and nice people, just a really amazing people. And, you know, Shema, she was a English major. So she had been speaking English for 3 years. But Muhammad, he'd only been speaking English for 4 months. And I just thought it was amazing at how much effort they would put into that. And he did it specifically so he could participate in this challenge. And that just shows such a great drive to me. I just absolutely respect that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't imagine. John, can you imagine one of our students studying Spanish super hard for 4 months so they could speak in Spanish?
No.
No, I cannot imagine that happening. I guess it could happen. I just have never witnessed anything remotely like that. So, yeah.
I have a quick question, if that's all right.
Sure.
Do the Kurdish people kind of associate themselves with the rest of Iraq? Because I saw on the map that you showed us, Kurdistan was the northern section of Iraq and a lot of Turkey and the rest of it north of there. And it seemed like it encompassed more of other countries than it did Iraq. So I was wondering if they associate.
That's a great call out. I actually studied up on this quite a bit because I was very curious. Kurdistan has been fighting for their independence from all 3 of those countries for years. They have their own separate culture from these other countries that they are a part of. While they still participate in some of their traditions and they still have to speak their languages, they're still fighting to become their own separate entity.
Okay, who is next?
I can go next if you want.
Okay, great. So you've heard from Melody and Lexi, who did the Global Solutions Sustainability Challenge. Just to point out, this was this spring and it was with Kurdistan. And then Thomas and Sebastian are going to talk about the cohort we had in the fall with Jordan. So in case that confuses anybody, but he might explain all that. So
I plan on it. Can you see that all right?
Yeah, looks good.
All right. So I am Thomas Waterman, and this is my capstone. So first I'll be going over what I did to complete my global experience. And Suzanne had mentioned that I also did the Global Solutions Sustainability Challenge, but unlike Lexi and a few others, ours was a 10-week virtual exchange, and we did it with students from the country of Jordan, which is west of Israel and east of Syria. It's situated right in the middle, and there's some fun facts. One of their main exports actually isn't oil. You'd expect, because they're in the Middle East, a lot of the stereotypes are that there's oil everywhere. It's actually the opposite for them. Their main import is oil, and their main export is clothing and potash. And in this challenge, ours was in the art and entertainment industry. We had to figure out a solution to a problem, which we discovered was single-use waste products being used and just thrown away in the art and entertainment industry. Here are a few photos. We had Charles Wright and myself. We were both the prototype developers. I don't really remember the rest of the roles. I do remember that Ragda was another prototype developer, I believe. And she was actually very fluent in English, as well as Anas. They had been learning English for a while, much like the other Kurdistan people. And here's some more. I got a picture of the SWOT assignment that we did, and that was basically trying to figure out the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the timeline, I believe, of our solution. And we did these two separately, and then when we came together, we made one big one, which you see here, and it worked out surprisingly well, a lot better than I thought it would. And our solution was something called, I believe it was Real Art or something. It was for Ra, R-A, and we were going to do it after the god of art, I believe.
Hey.
Hi.
Are you an artist?
Yes, I am.
Can I ask you something?
Sure, go ahead.
Do you have materials left over from your artwork that can be recycled?
Yes, I think I do.
Like what?
I think I have brushes, empty spray cans, empty paint cans, and many other things.
What are you going to do with all that stuff?
Just throw it away.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I have a better idea. Post it on my app.
Who are you? Why should I?
I work for Recycle Art, an application that if you send photos of your remaining materials, other artists and people can purchase them or trade you for something you want, allowing you to create more art. Our app has a swap shop for supplies just like this. Plus, it has space for selling artwork and places to recycle, helping artists like you make more money and reduce waste at the same time. Everyone benefits.
So it wasn't real art, it was recycle art. I said that wrong. But the video was not made by us. We just did the voiceover. The Jordanians actually animated the video and sent it over to us for us to dub it over. And there's a lot behind it with the time zones, as Lexi was saying. There was a misunderstanding on the time zones, and we actually got it in the nick of time. So I learned a lot professionally, academically, and personally. Personally, I learned a lot about what people think of bias and stereotypes. Bias, I learned, is incredibly prevalent in everything that you see. When you look on the news, when you look on anything else, everywhere, you see bias. I went into the virtual exchange with the Jordanians with bias because they are students in the Middle East. And that goes along with stereotypes. I had multiple stereotypes going into the exchange. And I really wanted to change what I knew about the Middle East. All I had known was the bias that I was fed. So being able to really meet the people had completely changed my point of view of the Middle East. And later, I'm going to explain what global citizens are, but if you have a global citizen and you meet a global citizen from another country, you're going to be able to find more things in common than ever before. Academically, I learned a lot. I thought going into this that working with a student from another country, there's going to be incredible difficulties and that it's going to be borderline impossible to work with them. It wasn't. There were some quirks, like show up at 5 p.m. to them is show up around 5 p.m. That's just something that you're gonna have to work with. And as they say, inshallah, which means if God wills it. And I noticed that they're getting a lot of the same type of education that we are. Sure, it's shifted a little bit, but the general principles are the same. And it was very interesting to learn about. And professionally, I learned a lot. They work way harder than any other people or group of people that I have ever met. They typically have to work harder to get to where we are because of the lack of resources that we have. So they've got more grit, work ethic, and everything than anyone that I've seen. And in a professional environment, they're in a different culture. They'll give you a different perspective on something that you're trying to work on. As for them, they had a different perspective on the arts and entertainment industry than we did. They maybe didn't have access to the recyclable materials as well as we had. And for example, they didn't have access to recycling plants as easily as we could just look it up and there might be a recycling plant 5 miles down the road. And I learned this through passport events, global experience, and being on campus. One of the biggest passport events that I really loved was when Tunisian students came in and they let us experience their culture. They came into class and showed us everything. It was one of my first experiences actually getting to meet somebody from another country. And it's really where I changed my perspective on meeting new people. Another big passport event is International Night. I really enjoyed that. I am extremely disappointed that I couldn't make it this year. But the last years that I've been, it's a very enlightening experience to learn about new cultures. And the Fulbright scholars, just having them around on campus is incredible. Getting to see somebody from a different country all the time is awesome. And the global experience through the Global Solutions Challenge is also very important. I learned that, and I learned so much from that. And with being on campus, Fulbright scholars, the passport events, everything, that catches everything. And this experience with global scholars completely changed me. The perception on meeting new people is completely different. Beforehand, I was open to meeting new people, but I was always going to go into it with a closed mind. Sure, I'd get to meet you, I'd get to know your name, but I wouldn't really press further than that. Now, I'm going to want to learn about your culture. I'm going to want to know what type of food you eat. What's the best place to get to know the new people around town? Where do I get to experience the real culture rather than the touristy spots? And I'm really curious of new cultures, religions, people. I might ask you, hey, I know that there's a lot of Muslim culture around here, but are they really acceptive of other religions? Because I know in other countries, like Tunisia, they're very lax and very progressive in their laws that they have. For example, one of the women that came from Tunisia didn't have to wear a hijab. I thought that was surprising because of my stereotype of the Middle East and other Muslim countries, that they don't need to wear it once they go past a certain age. They get to decide if they really want to wear it. And I was able to become a global citizen. And being a global citizen isn't just learning about new cultures, it's being receptive to the new cultures and trying to understand really what they are. You might know the history, but you might not know the people and how they act. And with this, I'd like to consider myself a global citizen. I think that I still got some work to do. I'm no Suzanne LaVenture, but I definitely would like to, in the future, get to learn new cultures and experience new religions and everything. I think that would be a great idea.
Thanks, Thomas. You're probably farther along at your age than I was at my age, so I'm sure you'll catch up to me if you just keep headed on the same path.
So,
but thank you. Are there questions for Thomas?
Have you kept in touch with?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Have you kept in touch with people from Jordan?
I've loosely kept in touch. I follow a lot of them on social media. Anas is very active on Instagram, so I'm able to see what she's up to all the time.
That's cool. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna save this to the end, but I'll go ahead and say it now. It always, I mean, the Capstone presentations, they always remind me of why we do what we do. And it's like, it always warms my heart. And I know it's the same for all the others on the committee to know that like this program really does make a difference and that you guys, you know, appreciate what you've learned. And it's like, yay, it warms our hearts. So thank you. Thank you all. Sebastian, did you want to go next since we heard a great voice on the video? I love that part about like, who are you?
Oh my God, that's what I was embarrassed about because
that cracks me up. I saw you
heard that video since we made it, and I remember how much of a rush me and Charles was, and we just had to keep taking it over and over again.
It was great.
Done. But yeah, I'd be happy to go next.
Okay.
Let me.
By the way, Jesus is also known as Sebastian, in case that's confusing.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Can you guys see this?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. Hold on. All right. So my name is Sebastian Bodine. I've attended at DDCC since last year, and I'm in the pharmacy technician program. And this was my experience in the Global Solutions Project that I worked with Ms. LaVenture and Thomas. The global experience involved doing a project with the students from Jordan, and it was about 10 weeks long. And basically I'm just going to reiterate everything Thomas said, but it was a great experience on my end, and we just had to find a solution to arts and entertainment. And the three criteria that we had to meet was a balance between sustainability, a business model that could support itself, and that was ethical to humans and the planet in our process of making it. So the topic was arts and entertainment, and I was very interested in the topic because I do art on the side. I don't know if you guys can see it, but back there on my walls is a bunch of doodles I've done throughout the years with an acrylic marker. And I really enjoy art, but not only were we focusing on visual art, but also like music, plays, everything, just basically the field of art. And over the 10 weeks, we discussed over Zoom, and we also shared our daily lives on Slack, which I really loved because we got to see each other's daily lives. It was like basically Facebook, just posting about what we were up to, what foods we were eating. It was really cool seeing what they were up to in their daily lives, because before this, I never had an idea of what it was like in Jordan. And before this whole project, I didn't know Jordan existed. But seeing their daily practices and seeing that they're a lot like us, they're in just another country, it was really cool learning about that. The solution that we came up with was the creation of an app which allows anyone to download it and find donation centers near them where they could bring used or new art supplies, musical instruments, paint brushes, paint, and everything like that. Because one thing as an artist that I kind of noticed is that once I use it, I kind of throw it away. And that's not very sustainable to the environment. So that was definitely a topic that we wanted to tackle. On top of the app being a place where you can find donation centers, it also acts as a social media page where artists and those who enjoy art could come and post about what they were up to, what they were looking for. They could post merchandise and updates on their projects, and they could just learn and discuss. Because one thing as an artist is that you just want to connect with others and just learn as much as possible. So this app also played into another one of our proposals, which was these pop-up shops that would temporarily be available for people to come in and buy the used donated items at a fraction of the cost, because art supplies and everything else is kind of expensive, and especially good ones, because it's just expensive. And this could get people who don't really have the funds for it into art and into fields that they would have never been able to get into. And this would also be places where everybody could meet up, artists, musicians, singers, actors. They could meet up, show off their work, sell, trade, and everything like that. And it would just be a great gathering ground for everyone to connect. In the end, we presented our work. We unfortunately didn't win, but it gave me a wonderful experience. I got to learn about another country. I got to see the daily lives of these people through Slack. And it was just really interesting just seeing it. And just, it really opened my mind, because before all this, I had a preconceived bias that everything in the Middle East is just kind of sand and war. But now that I got to see a firsthand look and talk to the people who live there, they have a beautiful culture, beautiful food, beautiful places to visit and see. And it was just a great experience. I loved how much they were interested in our culture as well. They told us about how they heard so much about New York, Los Angeles. They would watch the same movies that we watched. And it was just really cool just seeing how much they saw us as foreign and as an exotic as we saw them. So we connected a lot in that ways. And it was just really cool, the experience between the two groups. Personal things I learned was that I just want to learn more about other cultures. I want to see outside of where I've lived and grown up. I'm originally from Mexico, and I moved here to the United States when I was 5. And outside of those two countries, I don't really know much more. But this has definitely opened my mind up to see what else is out there and see the lives of people who outside of this project I would never be able to see. And academically, I developed an understanding of communication, the urgency of end dates, and the use of tools and discussion with my peers to reach a goal. During the project, I was in the pharmacy technician program, and I juggled classwork and the project side by side. And I even shared some of my experiences with my class. And the teacher of the pharmacy program, Dr. Johnson, actually got involved right after this. So it was really great sharing my experiences with not only my classmates, but also just outside of my friends and family. And it was a part of my daily routine. And I loved working, discussing with people from here and from the Jordan team. In professional sense, I learned that I want to do a lot more projects like this. After I complete the pharmacy technician program this coming week, I'm going to take all the prerequisites to apply for pharmacy school to be a pharmacist. And I would love to be able to do these projects in my profession. I'd love to work with people from other parts of the world to solve solutions that are environmentally sustainable business-like sustainability and ethically, especially in the world of pharmaceuticals. And it'd just be great causing that change in my profession. And in conclusion, just how it changed me was to learn and work alongside peers and international groups, and just learn just different culture. And I'd love to do more projects like this in my daily life and my professional life. And I really strongly recommend someone to do more projects like this and to take time to discuss with people outside of your comfort zone. And I just hope I have the chance to do it all again one day. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I'll share a super quick story. It's pretty cool how you got Dr. Johnson involved with the project too, but she studied abroad in South Africa in college, and that is what made her become a pharmacist, is that she was doing a service learning project, and she was working with women who were in a study, and they were being given antiretroviral drugs. They were HIV positive. But because it was just a study, they knew that as soon as the study was over, they would die because they would no longer receive the drugs. And so she was working with them to make memory boxes to leave for their children. But I mean, I can't imagine how, devastating that was. But, her study abroad experience made her become a pharmacist and then an instructor. And then, yeah, so it's pretty cool how it all, comes together. All right, any quick questions for Sebastian?
I had a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know with our challenge working with the Kurdish team, they were very friendly and very open and constantly saying, you need to come visit us. And if you come see us, we're not going to let you stay in a hotel. Like, you're going to stay in our house and we're going to cook for you. How were the Jordanians compared to that? Were they the same way?
Yeah, they were the same. They were super friendly, super inviting, and they shared almost every aspect of their life on Slack, and it was really great. So
yeah, I can add on this. They said that they'd cook food for us, do everything. They had this special dish that I forgot the name of, but it's a very
soft.
Yes, and they said that they'd cook it just for us, and it's something that takes a while for them to cook.
And they would. Yep. Americans have a reputation of being superficially friendly. We smile a lot and we say hello, but other cultures, I think, have deep hospitality where they really do, invite you into their homes and take an interest in your lives. And here we smile and say, hey, and that means we're friendly, but that means something else in other cultures too. Okay, that leaves us with Abigail, right? Yay, last but not least.
Okay. It says I have to open system preferences to share screen.
If you're on the school computer, it won't let you share the screen.
Oh. Should I open it on my personal?
Mine let me share my screen.
Then on my school computer, it won't let me.
You just have to hit share screen, Abigail.
It says open system preferences, and I don't know what's happening.
You probably just have to enable screen sharing for the app.
Is it a PowerPoint or Google Slides?
Google Slide.
If you just want to if you want to put the link in the chat, then I can probably show it for you.
Okay, because it's saying I have to close out of the Zoom for it just to work. So that just seems like a lot of work.
It's always something new with Zoom. It doesn't really seem that hard, but there's always something.
Is it S. LaVenture or Suzanne _LaVenture?
Either one. I've been at the college so long, I have the antiquated name. The S. LaVenture was because I've been here for 500 years. But we're changing our email addresses soon, which I'm really kind of worried about because I know a lot of people have my email address.
I'm super worried about it.
I know.
I have the old email too.
Do you?
Yep.
Right, AP Klinger.
And that's the one I use all the time.
Yeah, me too. You know, I think they would have considered shortening our email address, but they made it longer.
I think it's shared.
No, we can't see it. Did you?
All right, I emailed it. Oh, I emailed it to you. That's why I
emailed it. Oh, okay. I was looking in the chat.
Oh.
Right. That, we were talking about your email, but I was not paying attention to that. Let's see. Haven't got it. Oh, there it is. Got it. Got it. All right. So now let's do this. Whoops. Let's share my screen. I think it's this one. Okay, can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. You just tell me when to go forward.
Okay.
Go forward.
Yeah, go forward. So what project did I complete from my global experience? I also participated in the Global Solution Sustainability Challenge. I did the one that worked with a different university in Kurdistan. It was a 6-week virtual business challenge that occurred between February and April of this year. As you can see, where we live all the way in Thomasville, that's where our school is housed. And then the people in Kurdistan, their university was housed in Iraq. To work together on this project, we utilized many different virtual platforms like Zoom, Google Meets, and Slack, and we would meet once or twice a week, depending on what had to be done for that week. And as you can see, there's a picture of us on Zoom and also a picture of when we were trying to figure out what we wanted specifically for the app. So we created an app called Rest Farmer, which helped provide surplus food to places like restaurants or hotels to farmers at a low cost. And that food could be either used for composting or to feed their livestock. And in the challenge, I worked as a business concept coordinator and also technology specialist for the video. And there's a picture of me working with the other business concept coordinator. Why did I do the Global Sustainability Challenge? Since COVID hit, I originally wanted to study abroad in London, but obviously we couldn't because of COVID. So I tried to look for different virtual things I could have done. And then I found out about this from an email from Ms. LaVenture. And so I knew I wanted to do it. Some of the challenges I had during it was the fact that it was a virtual format. We were already in quarantine for such a long time, and we already were using Zooms and Google Meets. And I, at that time, was kind of annoyed and kind of done with Zoom. So that was kind of a challenge. And sometimes I would want to like just skip a meeting, but I refrained not doing that so I could actually participate in the challenge itself. And also another challenge was communication because of the time difference. And also the fact that we used Slack, which was a platform I wasn't really familiar with, but after a while I was able to understand how the channels and stuff worked. And then expectations, it was slightly different from what I expected. I already had experience with interacting with people from a different culture, but I didn't really imagine the workload to be very time consuming because I remember we had to write a whole business concept paper and that was very time consuming. So what did I learn personally, academically, and professionally? What I learned personally is how fortunate we all are to live in the United States. Common things in our lifestyle like running electricity and a stable Wi-Fi connection are considered luxuries in other countries. I know in Kurdistan, sometimes when I'd have a meeting with some of the other members on the team, their internet would just like shut down, and then we would have to reschedule the meeting, and sometimes like their power would also go out, and we'd have to like schedule meetings around that time because it was really random, so you never knew when it was going to happen. And then also being this challenge reinforced and learning about the global experience and global scholars, it really reinforced my view of not taking things for granted and to be grateful for what I have. I grew up in a Filipino household, so I already knew firsthand how lucky we all are in America, and knew that taking things for granted was something common. So I knew from the challenge and seeing how they were in Kurdistan that we are lucky to have what we have. When I learned academically, so I took about like 12 globalized courses, and I did the 8 passport events. From that, I was able to learn more about the different cultures and perspectives with the different countries through passport events specifically. And it really opened my eyes to the fact that people might have a different way of thinking due to their culture, but it would be really good to learn, and it taught me to be accepting of those differences. What I learned professionally from the challenge, I was able to earn specific badges like entrepreneurial thinking, virtual collaboration, cross-cultural communication, critical thinking, and empathy. From that, because of those badges, I was able to learn different soft skills like empathy and how to communicate with people from different cultures. And also working in this virtual format really gave me experience with collaboration. Using a virtual format, since COVID's not really going away, some things might have to stay virtual. So this gave me experience in working with Zoom and Google Meets. And then how did this experience change me? So from what I think a global citizen means, it means someone who is willing to become an informed citizen about everyone's different cultures and global perspectives. And I think I would consider myself a global citizen, not only because I've grown up with different cultures with American and Filipino backgrounds, but also I'm willing to learn more about different cultures, especially with Kurdistan. I knew before the challenge, I really wanted to do my research on it so I could better interact with the people on the team and work more cohesively. And because of global scholars, I got to experience many different cultures outside the classroom through passport events. One of those was International Night, which was honestly my favorite because I really liked going through each table and eating different foods and seeing all the posters about each country. And I've also grown to be more inclusive towards different people and their cultures and being accepting of who they are and their identity. And then I've also grown in many areas, specifically in curiosity. As I said before the challenge actually started, I really wanted to learn more about Kurdistan because all I knew about it is that it was in the Middle East, and I knew there's probably going to be more to it. So I knew I wanted to do my research and be able to interact with them and collaborate with them mindfully. And it also allowed me to become interested in other cultures other than my own, and obviously prompted me to do research. And for the future, after that challenge, my perception of others hasn't drastically changed, but it mainly just fortified my view of recognizing a person's culture and being accepting of it. Because I know, like, even though I live in America, I sometimes have to like accept the American way because I didn't really grow up with that. And then I also, after participating in this program, I hope to continue being more conscious and mindful of all these different other cultures in the world. Thank you. That was my presentation.
Thanks, Abigail. I think it is interesting. So like you and Sebastian and Christina, even you've grown up biculturally. So I think it is it's a lot easier for you to naturally flow between cultures because you've done that all your life. You've gone back and forth between at least 2 cultures. Okay, everyone says, woohoo, my fellow Filipina, everyone did great. You guys did do great.
Quick question for all of you guys on that sustainability challenge. So do you guys plan on using these virtual badges that you received in the future?
I can answer. I have mine already posted on my LinkedIn. It was a bit of a struggle to try to figure out how to do it, as they're not descriptive on how it's supposed to go down, but I plan on using them.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and Amanda, I haven't got it hooked up to my LinkedIn yet, but I plan on getting it there as well as putting it on my resume. There on the Badger website, it does give you information on how you can incorporate it within your resume. Instead of just stating your soft skills, you can kind of go into a little bit more detail about that.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, yes, you guys all did great. We're very proud. We look forward to seeing you all on Friday at our celebration. Christina and I have been working on putting together special treat bags for you all. So I can't remember off the top of my head if you're all going to be there, but I hope so. We have the beautiful Global Scholar stalls that we'll put on you. So you might want to dress a little nice because we'll be taking lots of pictures, and we have some good special treats for you. So we're not allowed to like actually serve food because of COVID, but you're getting a nice little bag of goodies. So
is it this Friday?
Yeah, it's this Friday afternoon at 2:30. You're finished. Are you graduating now?
This Friday, yeah. We're actually gonna do the live administration to be able to immunize. Give vaccines. Yeah. Give vaccines to stab people. We're doing that.
I thought you were going to be here next year too.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to take prerequisites at DCCC.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So. But yeah, all right. We're looking forward to seeing you all Friday, and congratulations, and you're awesome. And yay. Now I don't feel so bad about having a snake in my house, because you guys are great people and you're going to go do great things. So
I think it's funny that even though we all shared stuff on the same topic, each time if one person lacked something, the next person had that in the presentation. I thought it was really nice.
Yeah, it was good. There wasn't a lot of repetition, so that was good. Yeah. And yeah, right, you highlighted different things, so that was cool. Almost as if you had worked together.
We definitely did not.
No, I didn't think you did. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. Have a good evening. Does anyone mind if we like share these with people in the future or use them for whatever purposes? Okay, because we are recording them. We actually set it up to record automatically, so I didn't forget this time. But okay, great. We'll see you Friday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Y'all have a good night.
Guys.
Good night.
Sleep well, Suzanne.
I'm going to take drugs. Oh, that's on the recording. Whoops. Bye.